I was American born and I'll die an American.
Welcome to our group. Welcome to Defenders 7. Defenders 7 has so much knowledge, and this ought to show it right here.
Do you or someone you know suffer from depression? If so, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Monday night broadcast with your host and our Colonel, Kimberly Purvis. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. We're broadcasting to you live from South Carolina and Kansas. We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Before we get on with the show, I have to read a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on Defender 7 radio show and Facebook page are those of the callers and or authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Defenders 7. Now, with that being said, again, welcome. For those of you that are new just tuning in, we also have a website. Type in all lowercase letters, www.defenders, Roman numeral V as in Victor, with 2 small i's.com. When you get on our website, we have a store, and we also have a donate button. All 100% proceeds from the sales from our store and any donations that we receive go back to our communities throughout all 50 states in a time of need. So please, by all means, jump in there and purchase something, donate button. That's the only way that we're able to do what we do here at the Defender 7 when shit hits the fan or when a natural disaster pops up. So please help us to help you and your communities. Now, we can also be reached on our Facebook national page by typing in the search box, all capital letters, Defenders 7. That's Defenders, Roman numeral V as in Victor, with 2 large I's. Now, before you click on that join button, just know we expect all of our members and our future members to participate in all we do throughout the Defender 7. If you get in and you feel it's not the type of group you want to belong to, you may leave and there will be no hard feelings. We can also be reached on MeWe by clicking on organizations, scrolling all the way down to Defenders 7, Humanitarian American Patriot Group. We also have our YouTube channel. Our Colonel Kimberly Purvis has been downloading a lot of things to. So check us out there and please hit that subscribe button. Let's see what else we got also. And for all the shows that we do here on Blog Talk, we enjoy it when we get your opinions and your thoughts on the topic of the night when you call in. And that number to call is area code 914-205-5773. Again, that number to call, area code 914-205-5773. So come on, people. Call in. I'm opening up the phone lines and saying good evening to your host, our Colonel Kimberly Purvis, and our captain from Wisconsin, Miss Lorna Munson, a.k.a. Slacker.
Wisconsin. Wisconsin is here.
Good evening, ladies.
What's up?
The sky?
The sky. I should have known that was coming.
Now, before we continue on, I want to let y'all know. I don't know if you remember my very first interview on Blog Talk with the voice of Tanner's voice. It was a case. It was a murder case in Indiana at the time.
Yeah. Vaguely.
All right. Well, I got this Friday. I will be in court. Tanner's voice.
Oh, cool.
And hopefully I could do a live video feed from outside the courtroom before and after.
Did they ever find anything out on that?
Oh yeah, I can't get into it. It's
right.
A lot of it's got to do with high profile people on their own crime shows that really ran this family through the mud.
Wow.
And
Why
they
does
were
that
victimized.
not surprise me?
Exactly. It's all going to come out. There's been major cover-ups, and they've got all the evidence. So this is just one stepping stone. And I'm guessing I'll know more as the time comes, and I don't want to put too much out right now until I sit down with two individuals that are part of it. But I just wanted to give a little shout out on that.
Hopefully you can do a live feed. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm like I said, it'll probably be before and after the court. I'll definitely go live on Facebook.
You'll get your butt thrown in jail for that.
For what?
For putting the truth on the Facebook. Even though it's right there in front of their faces.
Right.
And I got like 18 days to go or something like that.
I've got like 15 or 16. So wonderful. Oh. So I figured, why not do a show on vaccines, but not necessarily, the poison crap that they're trying to shovel out on us. But I wanted to do the one like on the history of vaccines. And believe it or not, I did not know this, but everything goes back to 910, as in 910, and then 1,000, and then 1540. That's the big gap. It's from 1,000 to 1545. And so, and then it goes all the way up to date. So, Bobby, do you have the link that I sent you?
Yeah, I'll open it for $5.
Whatever. So on each one, I'm not going to cover every single little thing on there because Jesus will be here till Christmas if I did that. So the first thing that came out that they were aware of was measles and smallpox, and they had described them separately. And yeah, Abu Bakr Muhammad, whatever, known as Raziz in the Western world, a Persian physician, was the first to publish a written account on smallpox and measles. And it described the two diseases as being distinct and unique from each other, which they are. I don't know when they, I guess I'll cover it eventually, when they stopped giving out the smallpox vaccine, because once it was eradicated, there was no further need in giving it.
The smallpox, that was that one shot where it leaves a circle, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't have it, so I don't know if they stopped in the 70s.
Yeah, I was going to say that stopped when I was very, very little. I don't think even my brothers even got it.
Well, I can tell you right now, I got it when I was little, but the funny thing is, you know how that circle's supposed to stay with you the rest of your life?
Yep.
Yeah.
It never did on me.
Huh.
That's because you're not normal.
I'm alien.
Yeah. He's reptilian. Hey, why not? We'll go with some of the stuff. So, in the year 1000, in early Chinese inoculation, several accounts from the 1500s describe a smallpox inoculation as practiced in China and India. And that's referred in Volume 6 of Joseph Needham's Science and Civilization in China. The life and death of smallpox. And it says, Emperor Khan, I'm guessing, who had survived smallpox as a child and his children inoculated, or had his children inoculated. That method involved grinding up, this is gross, grinding up smallpox scabs and blowing the matter into the nostrils of the person that's getting inoculated. Inoculation may also have been practiced by scratching matter from a smallpox sore into the skin. It is difficult to pinpoint when the practice began, but some of those practices started as early as 200 BC. Okay, that's nasty. I'm really glad that science has changed. So we jump all the way ahead to 1545. So there was a smallpox epidemic in India. Some 8,000 children died in Goa, India, from a smallpox epidemic, most likely introduced by the Portuguese. And the thing about India, and this is from even back then, India has a very poor health system. And the only people that can afford it are people who are well off. And even like in America, as a nurse, I make more money than the doctors do in India, but converted over into rupees. You know what I'm saying? It's and their medical staff is provided housing and all of that, and their clinics are very few and far between. So in countries like India, stuff will run rampant through it fast. And that's a reason why a lot of these remote tribes in some countries where no one is allowed to visit, you can't go there because they have no vaccinations. They have little to no immunity except for what's in their area. So a simple cold, well, I won't say a cold, probably pneumonia would kill them because they have no immunity. So we go to 1578, where the whooping cough, or whooping cough, where you want to pronounce it, epidemic in Paris. Guillaume de Bayeux described an epidemic of pertussis in Paris, referring it to as quint, which he said was the common name for disease that was circulating. De Bayeux suggested the name might have to do with the sound of the characteristic whoop. Also, the whooping cough. I don't know how you guys pronounce it. It actually sounds like a barking seal, or at least that's what I thought. I don't know about you guys. Actually, that would be the croup too. So we jump ahead to 1612, where typhoid fever strikes royalty. Henry, Prince of Wales, the oldest son of King James I, died at 18 after a short illness, which was not identified or described other than a fever. So in 1882, Norman Moore, he's a medical doctor, published The Illness and Death of Henry, Prince of Wales in 1612. So based on his studies of the autopsy on the prince, as well as detailed descriptions of the illness, he was able to draw upon the conclusion that he had typhoid. So that would be, 1612 would be the earliest case of typhoid fever. And then in this isn't very long on information. The Spanish epidemic in 1613, and it was known in Spain as El Año de los I can't pronounce this word. It's GAROTILLOS. Or
good luck with that one.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said. It was an epidemic of diphtheria. Oh no, I cannot stay hearing myself talk. Do you guys hear it, or is it just me? The echo.
I don't hear no echo.
Okay. So in 1625 is when smallpox first hit America. And French Jesuits who encountered the Native Americans in Canada were confused by the hostility they received from the Indians, who they said observed with some sort of reason that since our arrival in these lands, that those who have been nearest to us happen to be most ruined by smallpox. And that whole villages were exterminated. So that's what I was saying. The same thing goes for the Native American Indians and everywhere else. They didn't have this. And that's the reason why, what was it, at the end of World War II, or was it one, when all the soldiers came home, they brought the illness from over there to here. And that's why it went so bad. So in 1963 was the colonial epidemic, and it hit Massachusetts, affecting settlers and Native American Indians. Along the casualties were 20 settlers from the Mayflower, including their only physician. And a lot of times when the settlers first started coming over on the boats, a lot of them, like my great, I don't know how many greats goes back, grandfather, when he came from Ireland, he actually died on the boat or ship, whatever you want to call it. He died along the way to come here to America. And that's how he died. But I can't, I don't have the information as to what he died from. But a lot of the settlers could have died on the way over. So in 1948, there was a quarantine in Boston. See, look at there. The quarantine started far back. And there was an epidemic of yellow fever in Barbados, Cuba, and the Yucatan. A strict quarantine was established in Boston for all ships arriving from the West Indies because of ye plague or like infectious diseases. I guess eventually we'll get to the vaccines. So in 1657, good old measles shows up in Boston. John Hull wrote in his diary that the disease of measles went through the town, but fortunately there were very few deaths. The thing about measles is, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I do believe in children's vaccines, except for this one particular one, which shall be named nameless. But a lot of anti-vaxxer parents will not give any of the childhood vaccines. And you can actually fight off the measles without the vaccine. It's just all the lingering effects that can come from some of these childhood diseases that you're just better off getting the vaccine. Okay. Bladders in the windpipe in 1659. In December of 1659, the until then unknown malaria of bladders in the windpipe invaded and removed many children by opening one of them. Oh, that's when they started their trachs, when they cut them in your esophagus. He was most likely describing diphtheria. One family afflicted was that of the Reverend Samuel Danforth. He wrote, "The Lord sent a general visitation of children by coughs and colds, of which my 3 children, Sarah, Mary, and Elizabeth Danforth, died, all of them within the space of a fortnight." I don't know how long a fortnight is. Do you, Bobby? Or Lorna?
How long? Fortnight? What?
How long is a fortnight?
I have no idea.
Wow.
You're talking about
that must be like a slumber party.
Yeah,
not
that's
the
what I was
game
wondering.
Fortnite.
Oh, that's what I thought you were talking about.
Oh, no. They died within, all 3 of his kids died within a fortnight. And you know what? I'm just going to look it up.
Okay. Fortnite, isn't that like within hours or?
That's what I'm, 2 weeks.
Okay. I was going to say hours, days, or weeks.
So I wonder where they get the damn name Fortnite from for the game that children think is real.
Right.
So
well, it's like
Slender
Man
within
too.
2 weeks. In 1661, the royal support of inoculation. When Chinese Emperor Fu Lin...
Ha! Whatever. Hey, that word came from an old English term, and I cannot pronounce it. Sorry, but it's meaning 14 nights.
Oh, that makes sense. Fortnight, 14. Yeah, that makes more sense than 2 weeks. Okay. Honest to God. What is it? Okay. If this term is used, I believe it's only used in medical. PRN, right? You know what it means? As needed. Where the hell is as needed in PRN? So that's what that other definition did. You know, it's like I don't even know where they come up with some of this shit. So when Chinese Emperor Fulin died of smallpox, his third son became Emperor Kang, having already survived a case of the smallpox before he became emperor. He eventually supported inoculation and wrote about it in a letter to his descendants. So after he got it, let me see if it was the same way. It does not talk about, it doesn't say how they did it. Freaking crying out loud. So in 1676, Sydenham, I guess that's how you pronounce that name, documents measles infection. English doctor Thomas Sydenham publishes observations. Yeah, I'm not reading all this Latin crap. I'm sorry, guys, because that's all I got out of that was observations. Medicare circa morborum. Yeah, no. It just basically means the history and cure of an acute disease. Although the Persian physician Rhazes was the first to attempt distinguishing smallpox from measles, this English doctor was the first one to actually do it. And he also distinguished it from scarlet fever. And believe it or not, scarlet fever was believed to have been wiped out. But my daughter, who's 31, my oldest daughter is 31, she actually got scarlet fever when she had the chicken pox when she was, I think, 9. And it completely freaked the doctors out that she had scarlet fever. And to this day, she still has issues because she had it. So in 1678, early medical pamphlet on smallpox was created, and it was made in New England, and because that's where most of the cases were at, was in Massachusetts. And 1679, the Indian plague was discovered. French courier Count de Frontenac, Louis de Dubois, describing the effects of smallpox on the Iroquois, and that's why they call it the Indian plague. The smallpox desolates them to such a degree that they think no longer meeting of nor of wars, but only bewailing the dead. There were so many of them. Kind of like the Spanish flu that came out and circled the world and killed hundreds of millions of people. Anybody?
Free beer, Lana.
Okay. Was it the Spanish flu that went around the world and killed a lot of people? Was it the Black Plague? Or bubonic
I'm trying
plague?
to clean out a chicken, and you keep asking me questions. My hands are all slimy.
Hey, listen, I asked, and Bobby should be listening. Okay.
Quit choking the chicken.
In 1684,
somehow.
I know. So in 1684, my bad, the 17th century smallpox treatment came out. That English doctor there, Thomas. What?
I think it was the Black Plague, wasn't it?
That's what I was wondering, but I guess we'll get to it. Huh?
Okay.
No, go through it and see. And the English doctor had observed that the rich seemed to have higher mortality rate from smallpox than the poor, and this led him to conclude the contemporary medical treatments, largely inaccessible to the poor, might be more harmful than helpful in mild smallpox. So Thomas Dover, a future doctor and a patient of this other Dr. Thomas, however, eventually documented his treatment it helped in more severe case of smallpox. Let's see. Whilst I lived in Dr. Sydenham's house, I myself had a smallpox and fell ill on the 20th day. In the beginning, I lost 22 ounces of blood. Oh, they did the bloodletting. That's what they did back then. I love the way they talked back then. He gave me a vomit, but I find by experience purging much better. Wow. I went abroad by his direction till I was blind and then took to my bed. I had no fire allowed in my room. My windows were constantly open. My bedclothes were ordered to be laid no higher than my waist. He made me take 12 bottles of small beer. See, there you go, Bobby. In the morning, they got 12 bottles of beer. Acidulated with the spirit of vitriol. Why does that sound familiar? Vitriol. Or vitriol. Every 24 hours. And I had this anomalous kind of, it was one of the pustules, to a great degree, and he never lost his senses one moment. Okay. So I guess that's how they started curing smallpox, was with 12 bottles of beer and vitriol. Not that I'm saying to do that, but hey, you know what? Go ahead. Okay, so in 1693, there was a proclamation made in Virginia. The governor issued a proclamation for a day of humiliation and prayer because of the amount of measles cases they had. And then in 1694, Queen Mary II of England, wow, she died at 32 of variola hemorrhagica. God knows. A lethal form of smallpox. Oh, wow. So instead of getting the clear fluid that's in them, hers was filled with blood. And so pretty much you die from that. And then she bled from other body surfaces, and then she bled out internally. The havoc of the plague has been far more rapid, but the plague had visited our shores only once or twice within the living memory. And the smallpox was always present, filling the churchyards with corpses, tormenting with constant fears all whom it had not yet stricken, leaving on those whose lives were spared hideous traces of its power. So if COVID was anything like how these illnesses were back in the day, you damn straight I would be wearing a mask and staying away from everybody. But you see what I'm saying? It's like they're treating COVID like the measles and smallpox were back in the day. And right. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just whatever. So in 1699, yellow fever hit the American colonies. Charleston and Philadelphia suffered the first confirmed yellow fever outbreaks in the American colonies, and the death tolls in both cities were high. And life just, that was it. It was done. So one of the Quakers from Philadelphia had wrote, and this distemper had died 6, 7, and sometimes 8 in a day for several weeks, there being few houses, if any, free of the sickness. And they were petrified. So, but every face gathered paleness, and many hearts were humbled, and countenances fallen and sunk, as such that waited every moment to be summoned to the bar and numbered to the grave. Wow. So apparently they lost. I'm going to choke the damn dog. So whenever any illness came, it was like, bam. I mean, it was massive. And the only thing they had, like one of the others, was the bloodletting and things like that, you know. In 1706, African use of variolation. Cotton Mather, a Boston minister, received a gift from a Libyan-born slave named Onemus, who bore a scar from smallpox variolation in Africa. Mather inquired among other slaves and found that many of them actually had that same form and thought themselves to be immune to the disease. So back then, so they knew that the immunization was working once you had caught something. And that's normally how it is. I don't know about you guys, but the only childhood disease I got was chicken pox. But I was also 25, and I thought I was going to die from it. But I never, fortunately, never got measles or polio or anything like that.
I got chicken pox in 8th grade. It sucked.
Oh, yes. It does suck. I mean, because it literally wipes the life out of you. I mean, you just feel like, I don't want to do shit. All I did was I took a bath, a warm Epsom salt bath. I got up, I watched a movie, took a nap. Got up, took a bath, took a nap, watched a movie. That's all I did for 2 weeks. And I did not want to eat nothing. And I had 3 kids to take care of, too, which really sucked. So in 1713, a deadly toll for the prominent colonists, measles killed 3 of Cotton Mather's children and his second wife. Mather, a prominent Boston clergyman, who would later bring smallpox variolation to the colonies. But in 1713, he wrote in his diary of an approaching measles epidemic. The measles coming into the town, it is likely to be a time of sickness and much trouble in the families of the neighborhood. In short order, as the rest of the town suffered, measles inflicted most of his family members, and it killed his wife and his newborn twins and another daughter and the family's maid within a few weeks. Damn. And he survived. So in 1721, we might actually get through all of these, Bobby.
Good.
In 1721, the first English variolation, Lady Mary Montagu brought the practice of variolation to England, where she heard Dr. Charles Maitland variolated her 2-year-old daughter. What in the hell is variolation? I'm like, what in the hell is that? Hold on. What is variolation? Oh, shit. That just means to inoculate with the smallpox virus. And it's not interchangeable with the vaccination. The later term was first used in 1800, soon after Edward Jenner introduced smallpox vaccine derived from cowpox, and an animal disease distinct from smallpox. So I thought that was talking about. Okay. So she came under criticism for advocating for variolation, and it was a practice that slowly began to spread as its ability to protect against smallpox became apparent. The results, however, were sometimes fatal. Well, 2 to 3% of those people who were variolated died from smallpox. In contrast to 20 to 30% who would die from getting it naturally. So it's kind of like Which do you prefer, the 2 to 3% or the 20 to 30? Okay. So in 1730, apparently the smallpox did not like Boston, Mass. So in 1730, they had another epidemic of smallpox. In 1732, death brings silence. A yellow fever epidemic hit Charleston, starting in May and running into the fall, with deaths occurring so frequently, the usual ringing of the bells upon a death was forbidden. Wow. And then another outbreak hit New York in the same year. Okay. In 1735, the plague among children. A terrifying diphtheria epidemic swept through New England. In some cases, entire families died of it. Wow. In one New Hampshire town, 32% of all children under 10 died from diphtheria. The case fatality ratio was almost 40%. Damn. Some of the families, if they had a lot of children, 3 of their 4 children would die from it. And all the treatments they had were ineffective. So the method of cure of throat distemper, wow, that's what they call it. First, be sure that a vein be opened under the tongue. And if that can't be done, open a vein in the arm, which must first be done, as all other means will be ineffective. Okay, this is, oh God. Take borax or honey to bathe or anoint the mouth and throat, and lay on the throat. Yeah, sure. The throat, a plaster. I have no idea what that was. It's a drink of decoction of devil's bit or robin's plantain with some, sal prunelle dissolved therein. I can't even just have regular words for these things. So the patient will drink it. Huh?
Oh, shit. I thought I was on mute. Sorry.
I thought you were just saying something.
I told Roscoe to be nice. He's yelling at Ralph.
So it says, if the body be costive, use a something that's agreeable to the nature of the distemper. Usually cats get distemper, but I did not know they call diphtheria distemper. It's got all these roots and herbs and things that I have never heard of. So basically, they did the bloodletting. So that's how they used to cure diphtheria, which it didn't really work apparently. Okay, in 1736, Franklin loses his son. Benjamin Franklin's 4-year-old son, Francis Folger Franklin, died of smallpox. So pretty much the 3 diseases were smallpox, measles, and yellow fever. Oh, well, and the diphtheria every now and then. So his son died on November 21st in 1736. And it said rumors had gone around that the boy had been inoculated, but they didn't have anything to inoculate him. He said, I long regretted that I had not given it to him by inoculation, which I mention for the sake of parents who omit the operation of the supposition that they should never forgive themselves if a child died under it. So I guess their way of inoculating people was to give it to them. let's see. So the promise of variolation. In the 1738, a smallpox epidemic struck Charleston, South Carolina, again. Of the 441 people who were variolated, almost 4% died. 18% of them naturally infected had died. And the results encouraged advocates of variolation. So, yeah. That was their go-to thing. But for some reason, every time, like the Cherokee Indians, it almost wiped out the whole entire tribe when the Indians got it. Okay, 1740, the German measles, rubella, came out. A German physician, Frederick Hoffmann, was the first to give a clinical description of the disease that would later come to be known as rubella. Until that point, however, so many German physicians were involved in identifying and distinguishing the disease from other known maladies or maladies. I can't read German. Sorry, guys. So thus, that's how they got the German measles, was the German doctors. I don't know much of the difference between the measles and German measles, but it looks like the rash is all over the body. So I was fortunate enough to never get it. So in 1741, a new name for a disease. The term yellow fever began to be used in the 1740s for the disease we now know by that name. Previously, doctors had referred to the disease and others that were similar to it by a variety of names. The pestilential fever, malignant fever, putrid bilious fever, and the like. And the new term would be used along with some of the older names for many years. So
like the
basically the name
disease.
comes from...
Hey.
Basically, you turn pretty much yellow appearance of the skin and the eyes because you have damage to the liver. But that's like jaundice. Same thing.
Oh, hey, measles and rubella are the same thing. German measles
are rubella.
Yeah.
But like the rubella, it looks
wait
like
a minute. Measles is R-U-B-E-O-L-A, and German measles is R-U-B-E-O-L-A.
Yeah, measles is rubeola, and German measles is rubella. But yeah, that's the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella. But regular measles is like they're tiny, tiny little scabs. They turn to little scabs like chickenpox, but they're tiny. So that's the difference in the two. In 1747, Philadelphia avoids an outbreak. Woohoo! Good for them. With Philadelphians aware that yellow fever had been traced to the West Indies, a vessel arriving in the city from Barbados was examined carefully, and after the captain reported a death of a sailor and a second possible case of yellow fever, the ship was held at anchor for more than a mile from the city and prevented from unloading the cargo or passengers. Reports later indicated that Barbados was suffering from a serious outbreak of the yellow fever. So, because they held the people there in quarantine, that saved them from getting it. Okay. Yeah, sure. Who was Edward Jenner? He must be someone who came up with a vaccine. But anywho, he was born in 1749. Okay. So in 1751, the London smallpox deaths was almost 4,000. People died from smallpox for the year. That's still a lot, believe it or not. That I guess that Dr. Jenner was orphaned at 5 years old. His father passed away at 52, and his mother died from childbirth 2 months earlier than that. Okay, in 1757, the infectious nature of measles was shown. Scottish physician Francis Home transmitted measles from an infected patient to healthy individuals by blood, demonstrating that the disease was caused by an infectious agent. So he was trying to mimic the variolation process by taking the blood from one person and inoculating it through the skin of an uninfected person. So he was trying to figure out how people were getting the measles, pretty much. And you know what? I kind of wonder if you mix in the blood type of someone who does not match the other one, that could be where a lot of their deaths came from. They didn't have the type, and you know what I'm saying? Who was it you were telling me that had he was given blood, but it was the wrong type?
Wasn't
Bobby?
that?
What? Yeah, that was my buddy.
Yeah, and that's why. Why probably a lot of people died back then was they started doing that, you know, all of this other thing and trying to mix. I mean, it's not a lot, but I don't know really how much it would take to affect the body, but I know 1 pint will jack you up. So in 1759, the spreading the word of inoculation. So at the suggestion of Benjamin Franklin, William Haberdine wrote a pamphlet called Some Account of the Success of Inoculation for the Smallpox in England and America. So together with the plain instructions by which any person, oh, hell no. Pretty much they let you do it, you're on your own. They give you apparently instructions on how to do it themselves. So, yeah, no, I'll pass on that. Wow. In 1763, Edward Jenner, at 14 years old, trained as an apprentice to Surgeon Daniel Ludlow. Wow. He's the first Doogie Howser at 14 years old. Get the joke, guys?
Yeah.
Man, you guys are slow. In 1764, Harvard, Adams, and smallpox. The smallpox outbreak in Boston, again, led to the general court to flee across the river to Cambridge. Unfortunately, required such roaring fires in the fireplaces of Harvard Hall. Jesus. They burnt the building down. But it burnt down the best collection of scientific apparatus and the finest library in the American colonies. Keep going, guys. Which was the New England Journal of Medicine, which came out in 1954. The fire took nearly the entire college library with it. One book, which had been taken from the library by a student earlier in the... Oh, well, so a student hijacked the book, and it survived. So John Adams underwent variolation during a Boston epidemic. By this time, many doctors performed variolation along with an arduous course of purging, vomiting, and sweat brought on by the treatments with mercury and antimony. And I wonder if that's why they started using mercury in the vaccines, because they don't use very much mercury in them now. It's basically used as a preservative when it's in the multi-dose vials. It's to keep it from bacteria growing inside. And Lorna, was it you that had posted that thing in the chat room?
What thing?
Shit, I know. I looked it up. I think
The
it was
thing today?
I think so.
The Hydra, blah-de-da-de-da.
Oh, the Hydra. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I posted it.
Okay. I looked it up, actually.
And?
Yeah, it's freaking toxic. It's the new mercury of vaccines.
And that's what they're saying that causes cancer.
No, well, that I didn't see. I looked it up, and nothing in it said anything about causing cancer, but it's toxic. So why? But I think it's used for the same thing as mercury was. But here's the thing: why they switch all of a sudden? See, that's kind of suspicious. Call me. I don't care what you better call me, but I find it awful suspicious they're changing shit around. But anywho, let's see. In the winter of 1764, the smallpox prevailing in Boston, John Adams had gone with his brother into town and was inoculated. Under the direction of Dr. Nathaniel Perkins and Dr. Joseph Warren. And so the distemper was very terrible, even by inoculation at that time. My physicians dreaded it and prepared me by a milk diet and a course of mercurial preparations. But see, mercury is also supposed to be good for your stomach. There's a disease. It's not a disease, but it's a stomach condition where people actually take mercury for it. Okay, so they gave him all of that in preparation till they reduced him to very low before they performed the operation. And they continued to feed him milk and mercury through the whole course. Oh, God. He said that every tooth in his mouth became so loose that he could have pulled them with just 2 fingers. That's how bad it was. Good God. And people I'm glad we have vaccines for shit like that. I don't think I could go through that stuff. So now chickenpox comes on the scene in 1767. And William Haberdine was the first to give a detailed description between chickenpox and smallpox. And they have nothing to do with each other, by the way. Let's see. And others, they are preceded by a little degree of chilliness, lassitude. I have no idea. It must be lethargicness. Cough, broken sleep, wandering pains, loss of appetite, and feverish for 3 days. Most of them are common size of the smallpox. I'm sure everyone knows what smallpox looks like. You could get it, believe it or not, my oldest had it so bad it was in her hair, in her mouth, on the bottoms of her feet. They were in her throat. And when you get them internalized like that, that is the more dangerous kind than just your average, on the outside of the body. Because, that can cause other issues later on in life. Sometimes,
I had them,
and like I said,
I had them all down my throat, close to my lungs.
Oh, they gave.
Yep.
When I had them, it just looked like hives. I took, and see, this is how I worked at Kmart, and when I got them, And when I worked at the restaurant part, it was in Kmart, back when we had one, and I didn't feel good. I just felt really tired, and so I ran a hot bath, and I'll tell you right now, as soon as I got out of the bathtub, bam, they all showed up. And I'm like, holy crap, I think I got chickenpox. But I didn't know it at first, and I've got a permanent scar on my arm where I had scratched one of the little scabs on it. So I went to the ER, and the doctor's like, I'll be the judge of that. I'm the one with the medical degree. Yeah, okay, dude. And he goes, okay, yeah, you got the chickenpox. So, and believe it or not, my two oldest kids did not catch them then. They never did. But they gave me, what was that? They gave me some antiviral medication that they normally give to people for STDs. And I cannot think of likely what it is. What was an antiviral? Let me tell you something. That shit made me so damn sick. I would be glad to never, ever, ever have to take that medication again. So, wow, they actually counted them. They found over 200 little chickenpox on one person's body. But yet they say you can't have them twice, but they're full of shit. Because unless you had a mild case the first time, you can get them again.
Both my kids had them twice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. If you get them really, really bad, which I did, you know, and my grandfather got them when he was in his 60s, and that almost killed him. They could not believe it, that he was that old. The thing also, when you look at, what's the other one there? Crap, you get it after you get chickenpox. It runs along the nerves. I'm just drawing a brain fart right now.
Shingles.
Yeah,
shingles.
Yeah, shingullosis or shingles. Now, here's the thing. If you've never had chickenpox and you come in contact with someone with shingles, you cannot get shingles. The chickenpox are a precursor to shingles. So you can't have one without the other. So, but yeah. And I don't believe there's a vaccine for shingles. I don't think there is. And if anybody tells you that if the shingles go all the way around your body, you'll die, they're full of shit. And I say that in the most polite way I could possibly say. Because shingles run along your nerve pathways. And there is not one nerve pathway that completely encircles your body. Because they go from your spine and they come up around and they don't even, they don't touch on the front of your chest. So they could run along, but that's where shingles runs. Usually it's in one patch. I've heard if you get shingles on your face, it's painful. So, in 1767, the hopes for future eradication. So Dr. Matthew Maddy, a physician turned librarian, wow, he foresaw the eradication of smallpox. So when once all of the adults susceptible of the infection should either have received it or dead without suffering from it, well, that's nice. The very want of various matter would put a stop to both the natural and artificial smallpox. Wow. So either you died from it or you survived it. And that's pretty much what they were hoping for. So in 1768, royalty successfully inoculated. Catherine the Great of Russia was inoculated by physician Thomas Dimsdale with relays of horses at the ready in case the inoculation should go wrong, and Dimsdale needed to escape from Catherine's angry subjects. Oh, God. See, that's Dr. Fauci right there. The operation was kept secret, and Catherine recovered successfully. Her inoculation later encouraged others to follow suit. The story about Catherine the Great's pretty cool, by the way. They did a great movie on it in the 90s. So in 1770, we're just moving right along. In 1770, protection by cowpox infection, Edward Jenner, an English doctor, became interested in the idea that previous illnesses with a disease called cowpox could protect a person from later becoming ill with smallpox. Jenner's biographer claimed that Jenner heard this folk wisdom from a milkmaid having caught cowpox from a cow. She believed herself and her smooth skin safe from smallpox. Cowpox is an uncommon illness in cattle, usually mild, and that can be spread from a cow to humans by sores on the cow. And during the infection, dairy workers may have pustules on their hands. Sufferers can spread the infection to others, to other parts of your body. Kind of like, well, shit. What the hell was it? That if you scratch it, poison ivy. If you scratch where your poison ivy is and you go and scratch something else, you can, because it gets under your nails, you can do the same thing with the cowpox. Is cowpox still around?
I haven't heard any recent, so I couldn't tell you.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, yeah, I heard of cowpox. So now the cowpox virus belongs to the orthopox family of viruses. Orthopox viruses also include horsepox, monkeypox virus, and variola viruses, which cause smallpox. And they look nasty. You're lucky you can't see these pictures. So Edward Jenner began studies at St. George's Hospital in 1770, and he studied for 2 years with surgeon John Hunter. Okay, so, that's nasty. In 1774, a farmer takes a chance. Benjamin Jesty, an English farmer and cattle breeder, inoculated his wife and 2 sons with matter from a cowpox lesion from one of his cows. So he just said, to hell with it. He believed himself. He protected his family from smallpox. When a serious smallpox epidemic hit his Dorset village, he, from his great strength of mind, took it upon himself to protect his family. His wife and his children survived, and the boys, when challenged with smallpox inoculation in 1789, showed no symptoms. So, they said we're not going to systematically test his methods or publishing his results. Wow, that is just wrong. So he was the first person to inoculate himself with a cowpox. And they didn't want anybody to know about it. So his wife put it on his headstone that he was the first person to do it. Oh, come on. Geez. That's all that they had was smallpox and yellow fever. So another smallpox epidemic in 1775. George Washington's siege of Boston was complicated by smallpox inside the city. British troops occupying Boston had been variolated or exposed to smallpox in the past. But our guys were more vulnerable, and most of them had never been exposed to smallpox and were not previously variolated. But Washington had them, and he survived when he was in Barbados in 1751. So in 1776, smallpox became a weapon of war. On a force of 10,000 Continental soldiers in Quebec, about 5,000 of them got smallpox. And a British commander may have deliberately intended to spread the disease by sending recently variolated civilians. Wow, what an ass. So he sent the civilians into the Continental Army encampments. So the very start of biological warfare was started in 1776. So General John Thomas died of smallpox, and that's when the unit retreated southward in May of 1776. Arguably, this defeat preserved the status of the northern British colonies. Wow. That was mighty nice of them. So in 1777, there was a mandatory inoculation for the Army. God, this is starting to sound familiar. George Washington, Commander-in-Chief to the Continental Army, based at his headquarters in Morristown, New Jersey, ordered mandatory inoculation for the troops if they had not survived the smallpox infection earlier in life, possibly in reaction to the inability of Benedict Arnold's troops to capture Quebec from Britain the year before. So, yeah, all of the troops were inoculated for smallpox. So in 1781, the future president contracts smallpox. Andrew Jackson, future U.S. president, got smallpox at 14 while being held prisoner from the British during the War of Independence. His brother Robert had taken prisoner with him, but he died. Wow, some of the coolest things you learn by doing this stuff. Any questions so far? Or whatever? Anybody?
No, it's just interesting learning about, I knew about a lot of them, but it's just enlightening seeing how far back these trace.
Oh, I know. See, I never knew any of it. I just know, like Salk and all of them, when they first came out with them, that was the first time I ever heard about it. Not right. That it came out in 910 BC. Oh, my God. Right. So when I keep saying 1787, founding the College of Physicians of Philadelphia. So 24 prominent Philadelphia physicians, including John Redmond, the first president of the college, John Morgan, the founder of America's first medical school, and Benjamin Rush, the signer of the Declaration of Independence. Sorry, good. It looks like singer. My glasses are getting all jacked up. He was the signer of the Declaration of Independence and vigorous advocate of many humanitarian and social causes. So that was the first college of physicians. And it says, to advance the science of medicine and hereby lessen human misery. Wow. By investigating the diseases and remedies which are peculiar to our country, and to promote order and uniformity in the practice of the sick. And when the yellow fever epidemic struck again in 1793, members assisted the city in developing steps to combat the disease. And the college continues over 200 years later to advance the cause of health while upholding the ideals of the heritage of medicine. I know this has absolutely nothing to do with vaccines, but do you guys know who Florence Nightingale is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. See, we have to take We have to take the Florence Nightingale oath when you become an LPN. I don't know about the RNs, but you do. You got to take the oath. Pretty much the same thing as doctors. But see, back in the day, there was no hygiene or anything like that, and especially in the military, you know, they didn't have all the proper hand washing and stuff like that. So Florence Nightingale, let's see, she was born May 12, 1820, and she died in 1910, was an English social reformer, statistician, and founder of modern nursing. She came to prominence while serving as a manager and trainer of nurses during the Crimean War. I didn't even know that. In which she organized care for wounded soldiers at Constantinople. She gave nursing a favorable reputation and became an icon of Victorian culture. And they called her the lady with the lamp. And she'd make her rounds at night to see the soldiers. See, back in the day, the people that took care of the soldiers were prostitutes and prisoners. They had nothing. And so she's the one who changed it. So the Nightingale Pledge is taken by new nurses, and you get a Florence Nightingale medal, which I don't have either one anymore. You get a little lamp. So, yeah. And it's a pledge. Let me see if they even have it. And you get to wear the little white cap, which thank God they don't wear those anymore. I just couldn't do that. And the white gowns, and in which they changed to pants. But they don't even have it. Well, that sucks. I'll have to look it up later. But yeah, she's the one who changed history for nursing. Oh, so in 1793, the yellow fever decimates Philadelphia because apparently all these diseases do not like Philadelphia and Boston. After 31 years of absence, yellow fever returned to Philadelphia, killing thousands of city residents over a span of several months. Okay, hold on. Okay. So the total number of cases was about 11,000 people, and it killed about 10% of the population of Philadelphia. Benjamin Rush observed the symptoms and spread of the disease closely, hoping to uncover some definite cause and means in prevention. So he kept meticulous notes about his individual patients as well about the conditions of the city. A meteor was seen at 2 o'clock in the morning, or about the 12th of September, of several remarks that curiously, machetos were uncommonly numerous. He did not seem to draw any conclusions about the presence of mosquitoes. Why didn't they just say mosquitoes to begin with? In relation to yellow fever. And he favored the miasma theory of the disease, literally pollution, which is what they actually thought what caused yellow fever. I'm lost my place here. Okay, so what they originally thought, what started it, was a shipment of rotting coffee, which had been dumped at the docks. And so that's what they thought had originally started it. Among other comments Rush made in 1793 was about refugees from the French West Indies escaping of infection from yellow fever as it struck the city. So though Rush did not know at the time, this was no doubt because the men and women who had come in from the West Indies had been exposed to yellow fever before and thus immune to it. But he took a misstep in his assessment of another group as being immune to the disease, and guess what? That shit spread like wildfire. And that's what caused everyone in Philadelphia, well, not everyone, the 10% of the population to die. Yeah. So yeah, yellow fever is caused by skeeters. And there's still, so I forgot what the vaccine is that you're going to take. I know you've got to take, before you go to the UK, you have to have a vaccine that I think it's the MMR. You have to get a titer to say that you've been inoculated against it, or you can't go there. Bobby, what's the yellow fever vaccine called that soldiers have to take before they deploy, or a lot of people over there? Do you know?
Ooh. For yellow fever?
Yeah. Didn't we? Hold on.
I can't remember. Do we have
Hold
that
on.
shot?
That's what I'm saying.
What was the question?
If we
Go back
actually
to
not
sleep.
remember if we had to have a vaccine, the yellow fever vaccine. Oh, never mind. That's if you're going to Africa and South America. So no, we did not. Like I said, if you're active duty and a veteran, don't ask because they're not going to tell you what you get. They stick you in the arm or in the ass, and you walk on by. Unfortunately for myself, when I got the anthrax, which I did not know I had, bastards, which now you're allowed to not take it. You can sign a waiver and say, I don't want the vaccine. Well, guess what? Apparently they didn't have that back in the day. And after I got that, that's what screwed up my immune system for the TB test. You know, the little tiny needle that goes under your arm, under your skin, and they check for the bubble and all that crap. Well, now mine shows a false positive every time I get it. So that's why I've got to do a chest x-ray. And then the hepatitis A vaccine that you get in 3 parts, I can't get those either. First one almost killed me. So I'm like, nope, I'm done. No more vaccines. So in 1794, a New York doctor makes an important observation. During a yellow fever outbreak in New York, Valentine Seaman, wow, what a name, noted that most of the patients were either such as resided in the neighborhood of the slips or whose employment led them to frequent those places. The observation once again pointed to a connection between yellow fever and seafaring vessels. Wow. So in 1796, Jenner made a major breakthrough. His tested hypothesis that infection with cowpox could protect a person from smallpox. Cowpox is an uncommon illness in cattle, usually mild, can be spread from cow to humans by the source, yada, yada, yada. And then you could also spread that to other parts of your body, kind of like what I was saying, poison ivy. On May 14, 1796, he inoculated 8-year-old James Phillips, hold on a second, with matter from a cowpox sore in the hand of a milkmaid, Sarah Nelms, and Phillips suffered a local reaction and felt poorly for several days and made a full recovery. In July of 1796, he inoculated Phillips with matter taken from a fresh human smallpox sore. So, in an attempt to challenge the protection from cowpox, Phillips remained healthy. Jenner next demonstrated that cowpox matter transferred in a human chain from one person to the next, provided, okay, so when the little boy got the smallpox, he took one of his sores with the liquid that was in it, and then that's when he did the next person, so that's how he was able to do that. Cool. He was not precisely sure about the nature of the cowpox material he used. He suspected that cowpox actually came from horsepox. Well, shit. In other words, he speculated that cows became infected from the same agent that caused the same thing in horses. When they finally eventually came up with the smallpox vaccine, it's more related to the smallpox virus than cowpox, actually. I've never heard of horsepox. In 1798, the word of his success spread. The Royal Society rejected his report because they didn't like that. A disease discovered in some western counties of England, particularly Gloucestershire, known by the name of cowpox. It outlined Jenner's success in protecting James Phillips from smallpox infection. Good Lord, from a material from a cowpox pustule. So, and then in addition, there was 22 more related cases from doing the same thing, and they all survived. So more and more doctors were going to start doing that. Okay. Philadelphia Lazaretto is built. Oh, it's a building. Sorry. Erected by the City of Philadelphia's Board of Health, the Philadelphia Lazaretto Quarantine Station. It was on an island. Oh, okay. So that's where they sent everybody if there was an epidemic, yellow fever. Anytime that an epidemic came around, they sent everybody to this particular building. So if you were a traveler headed for Philadelphia by ship, all passengers in cargo vessels that were bound for the city were required to dock at the Lazaretto for inspection. So kind of like what they were doing last year. Some countries were having people have to stay for 2 weeks in a hotel or a certain place. Same thing. And you had to go there for a certain period of time. So they maintained that building continuously in the city until 1895, when the State Quarantine Board was created and the station was moved to Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania. But it's still standing to this day. They didn't destroy it. We might get to all of our stuff. In 1800, Waterhouse brings vaccination to the state. Benjamin Waterhouse, a Harvard professor of medicine, performed the first U.S. vaccinations on his children. He went out to put much effort into encouraging public vaccination. Waterhouse began by writing to then U.S. President John Adams, whom he had roomed while studying medicine in England. So he was convinced that Adams was either too busy or disinterested in helping to spread the word of the various cowpox and smallpox vaccinations. So he wrote him a letter, and I'm trying to look here. Yeah, so he brought it here, and John Adams wasn't really, enthused about it. So in 1801, the Russian Empress encourages vaccination. And it doesn't say which the Empress Dowager of Russia. Oh, I wonder if they keep reusing that name. But yeah, so as time goes on, more and more royalty and head honcho, uppity people encouraged the vaccination. So in 1802, they looked vaccination versus variolation. Dr. Jean de Caro, a physician who directly helped to introduce vaccination to India, suggested that inoculation should be eliminated, saying it is inconsistent for a government to encourage vaccination and not forbid inoculation. This was among the first of many efforts to encourage vaccination over variolation for its improved success and safety. Pretty cool. In 1803, the origin of the term vaccination. At the first meeting of the Royal Gennarian Society, Edward Jenner insisted on the origin of the term vaccination from the Latin for cow, which vaca, be credited to his friend and fellow physician Richard Dunning. I don't know why they use Latin so much in medical terminology, but I hate it. Anybody in the medical field, if you like it, you suck. When you learn medical terminology and it's even medications and procedures and all of that, it's like, why can't you just physically say this? But you got to know so much crap, and it just, sorry I go off my soapbox. In 1803, a vaccination expedition, King Charles IV of Spain commissioned the royal physician Francisco Javier de Balmas to bring smallpox vaccinations to the Spanish colonies in the New World. De Balmas departed on a ship with 22 abandoned children and a host of assistants, planning to vaccinate the boys in sets of 2 throughout the trip. Oh, wow. So that fresh pustules would be available at any given time. He eventually reached Caracas, despite only one of the children still having a visible cowpox pustule. De Balmas initiated the South American vaccination, and all 22 of the kids eventually were educated and adopted in Mexico at the Spanish government's expense. So in 1805, the very first compulsory vaccination was attempted. Marianne Alyssa of Lucca becomes the first ruler to try making vaccination compulsory. She was unable, however, to determine a practical method of endorsement. So it didn't work. So in 1806, Thomas Jefferson, he was an advocate of vaccination, received a copy of Edward Jenner's work, and he wanted everybody to be vaccinated. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read the whole entire thing because it's... yeah, so basically he just said, because of smallpox, yellow fever, and all that awful stuff going around, that everyone get vaccinated. So, and then in 1810, an Italian physician uses cows for vaccine production. Gennaro Galbiati, doctor of the vaccine service in Naples, Italy, began retro-vaccinating cows with human vaccine from the lymph nodes. He then vaccinated people with resulting animal lymph. His findings on vaccine from the cows were expressed in these from the book he wrote. So they started in Italy. So in 1813, the U.S. Vaccine Agency was established. The U.S. Congress authorized and James Madison signed an act to encourage vaccination. So that's when they started encouraging it. So they used to mail people the vaccines instead of you going into a clinic. And 1817, cholera reared its ugly head. In the beginning of 1817, a series of deadly cholera pandemics swept over India, Asia, and the rest of the world. Scholars usually refer to a wave of 7 cholera pandemics from 1817 to 1823, and then 26 to 37, 1846 to 63, 1865 to 1875, 1881 to 1896, and then 1902 to 1923, and then 1961 to present day. So, damn, those last a long time. I don't think I could deal with that much of COVID. In 1820, there was a decrease in mortality. So in the last decade of Dr. Jenner's life, the London Bills of Mortality documented that almost 8,000 deaths from smallpox. It went down from 18,000. That's quite a bit of people that didn't die from it. Louis Pasteur. That's this is from here on, from 1822 to present day. This is the only one I knew about. I did not know about anything before, which is unusual, but yeah. So in 1822, Louis Pasteur was born. In 1823, Dr. Jenner, he died of a stroke at 73. So now, in 1826, diphtheria was given its name. So diphtheria, which had previously been called by a variety of names, gained its official name from French physician Pierre Bretonneau, who called the disease diphtheriite. The origin was the Greek word for leather or hide, which describes the coating that appears on the throat, the pseudomembrane that's in your throat. Also distinguished diphtheria from scarlet fever. And I wonder why more and more diseases started coming up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like from way back then, way back, there was only 3 major diseases. And then after 1826, here comes every freaking disease we've got now. You know what I'm saying? I wonder if it's...
that's when they started contaminating our food. True. Also technology, like with all of the, what you call it, industrial crap that goes floating around and using more preservatives and stuff. I wonder if that's where all the diseases started coming from. He also recorded the first successful use of tracheotomy in the case of diphtheria. And this procedure, which had been used to treat other conditions, and that's where you get your trach. So that's why they ended up having to do it, because of all the secretions and crap that comes up with diphtheria. In 1831, Pasteur found rabies. And that was spread by the bites of rabid animals. Of course, I wonder if they just had no name for it. So in 1836, the method of increasing potency. English physician Edward Ballard noted that cowpox transmitted from human to human seemed to decline in potency over time. He recommended choosing new strains of cowpox and reintroducing it back into cows to boost its potency. So that's like looking at our flu strains from year to year to year that we've had. From the bird flu, the Zika flu, or Zika virus, swine flu, the SARS, and all of those, and they just change frequency. I mean, the potency of it, and that's why they don't know what's going to be floating around. So, well, that was smart to actually do that. In 1840, Britain said, nah, no more variolation. They banned it. William Farr in The Lancet characterized Britain's National Vaccine Act of this year as inadequate, with 5 London children per day still dying of smallpox. But they said no. So, and I do believe, I don't remember because it's been so damn long, what age do they start vaccines? Was it a couple months old, like 3 months old when they start?
2 months or 3 months.
Something
yeah,
like
because
that,
it still has the mother's immunity. Yeah, it has the
Right.
mom's immunity. Yeah. Poor kid. In 1840, Pasteur completes his Bachelor of Arts degree. His Bachelor of Arts degree. Sorry, okay, you know. Yeah, that's when he got his first degree. So rubella, not rubeola. The naming of the Little Red. The name rubella, meaning Little Red, was first used to describe the outbreak of at a boys' school in India. Later, this would be referenced by English surgeon Henry Veal in Edinburgh Medical Journal, documenting the history and epidemic of Rothine. Veal proposed that the name rubella replace, because you can't pronounce it. Because that's exactly what it was. It says because it was easy to write and pronounce. And it was the way it was, you know how they put the little dots on top of letters and little, that's why. So yeah. In 1842, Pasteur completes his damn bachelor's degree in science. I'm going to start calling it that. In 1844, he continued his schooling, where he earned his master's of science in 1845. Will you go there? In 1846, Faroe Islands yield new observations. Danish physician Peter Panum was sent to the Faroe Islands, located in the North Atlantic, between Iceland and Scotland. Well, that's a big damn difference. To study a measles epidemic there, he spent approximately 5 months on the islands, noting that although measles were traditionally a disease of childhood in most parts of the world, it said, no, we're going to get everybody. They didn't care how old you were. Let's see. Pharaoh, from exposure to illness, also led to increased mortality when a disease did reach the island. So yeah, it was. So some things stopped being a childhood disease, and it got everybody. And so he was able to find out the transmission of the disease, and how long it took, and all of that. Hey, well, we're not going to get there. Damn it. In 1847, doctorate won. Pasteur won his doctorate of philosophy degree. Cool. And then in 1849, Pasteur started teaching chemistry. And in 1849, cholera, Snow's early findings. English doctor John Snow proposed that cholera was spread by contaminated water. So, and that's probably where it came from, like in the trenches and all of that. So, so Snow rejected the commonly held idea that bad air or miasma was responsible for cholera, rather based on his careful examination of a London outbreak. And he suggested that the disease occurred when people ingested certain tiny particles in the water. And that is why you boil your water. So I'm going to skip a couple of these because they're like, whatever. In 1853, the UK made it mandatory vaccination of smallpox. In the first so it's 3 months old is when the infant got it. So, wow. And if you did not get it, you got thrown in prison for not vaccinating your baby. So in 1854, cholera. Pacini links bacterium to disease. So now they've linked what causes cholera, what bacteria. So Italian physician Filipino Pacini linked the cholera bacterium to the disease itself. Pacini microscopically observed samples from the intestines of cholera victims and noted the presence of tiny comma-shaped particles that suggested were part of the disease, which is known today as Vibrio cholerae. The genus Vibrio includes several species of comma-like shaped or rod-shaped bacteria. So, yeah. And that's why we boil water if we're in Mexico or any of these third world countries. So in 1854, the study of fermentation. At 31, Louis Pasteur became professor of chemistry and dean of sciences at the newly established University of Lille. Here he began studying fermentation, which is the chemical process for extracting energy from carbohydrates. That's cool. In 1854, cholera again. The pump handle. John Snow once again made an important contribution to the understanding of cholera. So basically, he noticed that people at the water pumps and the wells, they were not clean. So that's where they found it. So about 500 people died from getting cholera at the water pump. So let's see. In contrast, he showed that a nearby pump supplied by a different company from water further upstream did not appear to be associated with cholera. Okay. We got time? Yeah. I want to try and get as far as we can. I'll just, you know what I'll do? I'll just finish up what I don't get done tonight for tomorrow night. So, considering it's all medical anyway. So in 1855, the vaccination law passed. Mandatory vaccinations. So that's when it started for children to get into school. It was 1855. And then in 1856, diphtheria hit California. He treated this doctor, I cannot pronounce his doctor's name, so I am sorry. He treated sufferers with an application of a variety of chemicals to the affected areas. It is likely that these applications did not help, which is why they call it practicing medicine, because it's still practice. It's not a definite. You know, that's why you have a variety of medications and treatments for everything. So, in 1859, Louis Pasteur's daughter died at 9 years old of typhoid fever. So here comes another disease. Measles plays a major role in the Civil War in 1861. And that's when a ton of soldiers, 551 deaths in the Union Army alone, primarily from respiratory and cerebral involvement. So, and then, let's see, 2/3 of soldiers who died in that war were killed by infectious disease. 660,000 men died from infectious disease. So that's why it was important when Florence Nightingale comes around. The death of a spontaneous generation. In 1862, the French Academy of Sciences had issued a challenge to French scientists. They should try to shed light on the concept of spontaneous generation. Spontaneous generation is the idea which still persisted in the 1860s that life can arise from nothing or from non-living material. Jesus, such as mud or water. Okay. Louis Pasteur took on the challenge using precise series of experiments to show that flasks of broth and water did not spoil when he prevented organisms from entering the flasks. And that's when he got the prize of in 1862. So, you know, like if you leave shit in your refrigerator, it becomes a science project and you get that green mold and stuff. I believe that's what they were speaking of, spontaneous life. In 1862, smallpox hospital loses 110 patients in 1 week. In Richmond, a smallpox hospital admitted 250 patients during the week of December 12th to the 19th. Almost half of them died. And then again in 1862, smallpox hit the Confederacy. Just after the Battle of Antietam. In 1863, President Lincoln got smallpox. Just hours after delivering the Gettysburg Address, he got weakness, fever, and headache, and on the train back to Washington, within a few days, developed. He got smallpox. So he was sick for 4 weeks. You want me to go ahead and stop with a couple more minutes left?
Yeah, we only got 5 minutes.
So we stopped at, what did I say? Damn it. Oh, Lincoln, 1863. And I'll just go over the rest of these tomorrow. So did you guys learn anything besides blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
I learned there's
like I said.
cowpox.
Huh? Do what?
I learned a thing that there's such a thing as cowpox.
Well, there's also horsepox and monkeypox.
And Lorna pox.
Yeah, you don't want to get that.
Well, honestly, I did not. I mean, of course, being a nurse, even as an LPN, you don't learn everything there is to know nursing. You're like, I'll be starting RN school in a couple weeks. You learn a little bit more. And the higher up you go, the more you have to learn. So we didn't learn. And I wonder, I'm going to ask Bill tomorrow night, just remind me, Bobby, how much did he have to learn of all of these vaccines?
Right.
I wonder how much. Oh, I got a trivia question for everybody. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what we discussed right now. Look up spaghettification. I learned it today. It's SPAGETTI fication. FICATION. Spaghettification. And yes, it's a real word. So, look it up. No, seriously, look it up. It's a word, guys. I'm going to challenge everybody to learn a word. You can't use it in everyday conversation, by the way. So it's not one of them words. We got 3 minutes.
I was following along with what you were reading anyway, so that was.
Oh, cool.
That was it's interesting.
But the funny thing is you click on one of those little white boxes and it pops up. It's one sentence. Well, geez, Louise.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Yeah, and I was like, what?
But it's like you're expecting a lot more information. Some of them had a good bit. A couple of them had little videos. But you can't really do it. But I thought it'd be neat to start doing things like this because you can only do so much of one subject,
Right.
So if you guys have anything you want to learn the history of, let me know, and we'll do it. I don't really. I mean, I think it's cool because eventually some of this crap will stick to your brain.
Yep. We got 2 minutes.
I don't know.
Okay, Bobby's gonna go home.
We're doing the
spaghettification.
Huh? Spaghettification? It has nothing to do with spaghetti, by the way. Not really.
What?
It has actually nothing to do with spaghetti, sort of.
No, I know. I looked it up.
Did you? You know what it is?
Yep.
You know what? If that ever happens...
All right, we got 90 seconds.
Go for it.
Very great, informative show as usual, and I thank you both for being here, and thank you, Kim, for all the info.
Oh, no problem.
God bless America, our kids, our troops, our first responders, our veterans, and God bless the Defenders 7, and we will see you tomorrow night. Same time.
Same bat channel.
Good night.